coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News. It's a common occurrence throughout the day, the telephone ringing off the hook, with callers on the other end alerting you of a lottery win or asking to confirm your personal or business information over the phone. Circulating scams, which can also occur by email. And with increased cases of influenza, measles, and other illnesses this year, health experts are suggesting that you have all of your vaccinations up to date to avoid becoming ill while traveling abroad.
And it's interesting because we're starting to see the first cycle of carbon monoxide detectors in that 10-year range where they're starting to have more failures, more false alarms.
Thanks for joining us here today. As RCMP continue to receive complaints of suspicious phone calls and emails, you're reminded to protect yourself from becoming a victim of fraud. It's a common occurrence throughout the day, the telephone ringing off the hook, with callers on the other end alerting you of a lottery win or asking to confirm your personal or business information over the phone. Circulating scams, which can also occur by email, with senders requesting you to click into attachments to access your prize or a free trial offer. A growing trend, which RCMP reminds you to be leery of.
The fish mails, the emails that you get on your computer systems that will sometimes plant a virus or a cookie into your system to gain personal information. If you receive an email in your email account and you're not familiar with the sender, delete the email. Even if it says you've won a prize or anything like that. It's the old adage with all of these that if it's too good to be true, it usually is.
And it's a good idea to change your computer and email passwords on a regular basis to further prevent hackers or computer viruses. If you suspect any fraudulent activity by telephone or email, contact your local RCMP. Fire alarms and carbon monoxide detectors save lives, and you're reminded to check these units for their batteries on a regular basis. Over the past several weeks, your furnace has likely been put to good use, and as you spend more time indoors this time of the year, the concerns over carbon monoxide levels increase. Each year, numerous cases of carbon monoxide poisoning are reported across the country, and you can prevent becoming one of these victims by simply having a carbon monoxide detector. A simple device which comes in a variety of models, and by the sound of its alarm, could save your life.
And it's interesting because we're starting to see the first cycle of carbon monoxide detectors in that 10-year range where they're starting to have more failures, more false alarms. The built-in batteries are starting to fail, so we're starting to get a few calls to the department on those. And an encouragement for people, if you've got concerns, make sure you're checking your carbon monoxide detector, testing it, checking the date on the back, but encouraging people to have a carbon monoxide detector. Carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, disperses evenly with air and gives you flu-like symptoms, a tiredness, so there's very little symptoms, and carbon monoxide deaths usually are tired, went to sleep, and didn't wake up in the morning.
And the same rule of thumb applies to smoke detectors. Check the batteries on these units on a regular basis. More information on the proper installation of carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms in your home are available through your local fire department.
My name is Ward Shell. I'm a visual artist from Moose Jaw. I paint acrylic on canvas generally, but I also love to draw, and I'm represented by the Slate Gallery in Regina. I work in acrylic on canvas. What I love about acrylics, it was a hard thing to get used to because I started off in oils, and it has that beautiful luxury of that nice paste, a beautiful buttery sort of quality to it. And acrylics doesn't have that. Not quite the same anyway. You can put things into it to make it work better. But what I like about acrylics is that I can thin it out, layer it transparencies over transparencies to achieve a color that I can't even really predict what's going to happen. And it dries quickly, so I can keep layering and layering and layering fairly quickly on it. I don't use a lot of white in my paint, so I sort of plan my road and see how it works. Almost like watercolor, I work light to dark in some cases, and not all the time. It really depends on what the image, how it speaks, and how I want to tackle it. It's not always the same. The last few years, I've been doing a lot of forest interiors. I had a big show, solo show a few years ago in Moose Jaw, and it was all dedicated to Fairy Island, which is where this painting's from, which is where Ernest Lindner had his studio and cabin for many years. And I was teaching up at Emma Lake for several summers in a row and took my students there. I'd always heard about Fairy Island, and of course Ernest Lindner was a huge influence in the early days, but I'd never been there before. So when I went to the Fairy Island with my students, it cast its spell, and I needed to do something. It was one of those things where I didn't know if I should or could, because out of respect for somebody else who had spent their whole career there and done their whole body of work there. Someone told me it was the 75th year anniversary of Ernest building his cabin. I thought, well, that's an excuse to do an homage to him. So I started back into forest interior and have been doing that. There's just so much work I want to do, want to complete, and a lot of it involves it. It's not all there. I go to BC to see my family, and then I wander around the woods and the mountains there too for influence. But I'm just as happy doing prairie landscapes that have no horizon line, which is odd for the prairies. I focus down on the ground and find the textures and the shapes and the colors down there, mesmerizing and fascinating. And that's what I continue to look for. For the last 30-some years, I've focused quite clearly on real close-ups of landscape without looking at the horizon. Although you do see a little bit of horizon on this painting, it's very rare that I put that in. As a matter of fact, I debated whether I should do this painting at all because of that. But I just love the way the oddness of the land. There was always a discussed divide between Saskatoon and Regina in two schools. The abstract school of Saskatoon and Regina was quite different faculty and different perspective of work. And that, I didn't really understand it. I always thought the art world was the art world and we're all family, but there was this divide. And it's, this weird dichotomy in most places have rivalries with sports things. There just seemed to be something there. And we all knew each other, knew names, it's respect from top to bottom, but we hardly got together. I mean, it's very rare that we all got together in one place. Now our work is in the same building together, and it was like a family reunion with a family you hadn't really spent a lot of time with. It was a great atmosphere in here because of that, and it kind of lifts the barriers.
Well, as you plan your winter getaway to a tropical destination, health officials are reminding you of the importance of having all of your vaccinations up to date. This is the time of the year when many escape the winter season and travel to warmer destinations. And with increased cases of influenza, measles, and other illnesses this year, health experts are suggesting that you have all of your vaccinations up to date to avoid becoming ill while traveling abroad.
A lot of movement and changes in different diseases in different areas. For example, in the Dominican Republic, there's been an increase in malaria, and we've actually seen an increase in numbers this year of people returning from the Dominican who actually did get malaria. So things like that, it's always important to know what medications you may need to take or what precautions you need to undertake when you're out in wherever you're going, at the same time keeping all your immunizations up to date.
By taking the time in advance to investigate if there's any travel advisories issued for your destination or any vaccinations required, you can prevent most illnesses and enjoy that well-deserved vacation. More information on travel vaccines are available through your pharmacist or public health office. Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at southwesttvnews.com. And be sure to follow us on a range of social media. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.